And I think KPD took some photographs of the
Yes,
scene
ma'am.
and of you collecting. If you want to just walk us through those photographs. You recognize Exhibit 23?
Yes, ma'am.
What is Exhibit 23?
This is the back road, and you see the rock. It's up right there. Yes, that's a rock there, and then that ditch is right down below where all those briars and things like that are at. And we would have to go in through that to get to where the body was at.
All right. Exhibit 24?
This would be an overall view of the area to where I worked my canine and collected the evidence.
Exhibit 25?
If you will notice those two cans, that's exactly my evidence cans, and I think she took them over there. And you will see those are white gloves that's there at the bottom of where the cans were at. At all times when we collect our evidence, we will always take photographs of that in place on where we did collect the evidence and preserve the evidence, personally take it to the crime lab, and after taking it to the crime lab would call, and after they call, I could go get it, and then I get my results back from it, and that's be the last time that anybody would touch it. It would be put into a lockup, and nobody can get into the lockup except myself until it was time to come to court for it.
Exhibit 26, is this the close-up of the cans?
That is the close-up of the can, and there's some tools mingled in there, and those tools are only used one time so we don't have cross-contamination. That's new tools that's laying there to where those tools are.
For the record, I'd like to move the evidence exhibits 23, 24, 25, and 26.
All right.
Pass the witness.
No questions.
Mr. White, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Enjoy your retirement.
I hope to.
Russ Whitfield.
Raise your right hand, please. You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give in this case will be the truth, be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do, sir.
Thanks.
Give us your name, please, sir.
Russell Whitfield,
Where are you employed?
Knoxville City Police Department.
What do you do with the Knoxville City Police Department?
I work in the forensic unit.
And in the forensics unit, what do you do?
Well, it's a variety of things depending on what the situation is. Take fingerprints, photographs, collect evidence, that's it, essentially.
And how long have you been with the Knoxville City Police Department in that position?
Yeah, in the forensic unit, 16 years.
Did you work with the police department prior to the forensics unit?
Yes, ma'am. I was in patrol for the first 10, so I've been on 26 years.
And sir, do you recall working back on January 7th, 2007?
January the 10th.
January 10th, I'm sorry, January 10th, 2007.
Yes, ma'am.
And do you recall going to the railroad tracks?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
And why did you have to go to the railroad tracks?
Okay, and Investigator Claiborne called and wanted me to meet him there. He explained some details to me. On January 10th, that was on a Wednesday. I know that Chris Newsom was found on Sunday, the 7th. So Investigator Claiborne explained some things to me that the arson squad was there, and he needed me to take some photographs.
And did you respond to the scene?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
When you responded to the scene, what did you do?
Well, I met with Investigator Claiborne. Then we walked down the railroad tracks. I met with some of the arson squad guys there, and they were collecting some evidence. And I took some photographs of items that they were collecting.
And after taking photographs of the evidence that they were collecting, did you decide to walk some other place?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
You can tell us about that, please.
Well, the arson squad was looking at some rocks and discoloration and things like that, and I'd already collected some samples there. So I went walking foot for any further evidence. So along the creek, it's about 50 yards away, I saw what I first thought was a kite-tail, a long piece of cloth tied in knots. But then, when I looked closer, it was the same color as what I'd just seen on the railroad tracks. So I photographed it and collected it. And there's a blue dog leash, and same thing, photographed, collected.
Let's look at some photos first, and then we'll go to the items you collected. Again, going back to Exhibit 23, you recognize Exhibit 23?
Yes, ma'am.
And sir, there is a laser pointer up there. Can you see that? There should be a button on the side.
Oh, okay. This is it's really the dead end of Whittle Springs Road. So what I've done, I've backed up here to get this photograph showing us the dead end, and up here is the railroad tracks.
And Chipman Street is just beyond the railroad tracks?
Yes, ma'am. It's beyond the railroad tracks, other side.
Exhibit 24?
This is our arson squad guys are over here, and this is the railroad tracks that you saw in the first photograph.
Exhibit 200?
Okay, I wanted to try to capture some of this with the concrete here, the railroad tracks, and this is the creek that I was referring to.
And the railroad tracks, are they in this photograph here?
Yes, ma'am, they're at the top right-hand side.
(201)
And this is the cloth. That's had mentioned I thought it was the same color as the piece of cloth that I collected on the railroad tracks. So that was photographed and collected as well.
202?
And this is actually a better photograph of the same multicolored piece of cloth. It's been tied.
203?
And that's the slightly out of focus, but a broken end of the blue dog leash. You can see the blue dog leash here, and up here is the end of it.
204?
And it's a photograph of the dog leash handle.
205?
Some more of the cloth with the multicolored. It's been tied in knots.
And again, in Exhibit 205, where would the railroad tracks be?
Oh, they'd be a little bit further up to the right over here. It's going to be off the photograph.
For the record, we'd like to move to evidence exhibits 200, 201, 202, 203, 204, and 205.
Right.
And so you were telling us that that material was the same type of material that you had collected at the railroad tracks?
Yes, ma'am.
And the material that you collected at the railroad tracks, what did you do with that material?
Well, it's packaged. I package it up, and the arson squad's got a little bit of their stuff, and we seal it, label it. And we're going to basically at that point be turned into confiscations or / the property unit.
And do you recognize Exhibit 325?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
And how are you able to recognize Exhibit 325?
Well, it has our auction squad labels on it. And has my name, the date.
For the record, we'd like to move into evidence Exhibit 325.
All right.
And if you want to put those gloves on, I was going to ask if you want to take a look. What is Exhibit 325?
You understand?
Is it okay if you were to step down and
Oh, sure.
show the jury what it is?
Here, this bag has my name, the date, my initials. This part of burn cloth from the railroad side.
Judge, can she stand here in the back row? The juror stand.
Oh, yes, if they want to, surely.
And this, what I said, was like the same multicolored pattern that I collected at Creek.
Put those back together and put those in that can there. So, for the record, we would ask to move in Exhibit 3 from file.
All right.
Assets?
Mr. Whitfield, after all this was collected, what did you do with it?
It was turned into confiscation, sir, at the police department.
Okay. And what did they do with it?
Well, I was later learned that the small piece that I collected at the railroad tracks might have been used to help get a search warrant to enter the house at maybe a second time.
Were you ever advised of the results of any testing that was done on all of this material we've looked at?
No, sir, that I would not.
So you're not aware then of what happened to it as far as testing goes?
Well, I
What
know
the
that it
results
was.
were?
I'm sorry.
What the results were?
Were the results? No, I was not told of that.
Okay. No further questions.
Mr. Whitfield, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
State calls Laura Hodge.
You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give in this case pending before this court be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Please tell us your name and spell your last name for us.
Laura Hodge, Hodge.
Ms. Hodge, where do you work?
I work for the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, where I'm assigned to the Nashville Crime Laboratory.
What's your job title with them?
I'm a special agent forensic scientist.
What's your particular field? Say, or that you work in?
The unit that I work in at the laboratory, for the first 19 years of my career, I worked in the microanalysis unit of our laboratory, and my specific duties within that unit were fire debris analysis and gunshot residue analysis. In January of 2012, however, I transferred to the firearms identification unit in our laboratory, and I'm currently in training there.
Now, have you served as, when you were working in microanalysis, did you serve as an instructor with TBI?
Yes, I was a guest instructor at the Tennessee Law Enforcement Training Academy, as well as other TBI-sponsored courses in the area of microanalysis.
And what was your educational background that qualified you for the position you had in microanalysis unit?
December of 1990, I received a Bachelor of Science degree from Middle Tennessee State University. I majored in biology and minored in chemistry. I've been employed by the TBI since December of 1992, and since my employment, I have completed an in-house training program in fire debris analysis. I have also completed both the basic and the advanced accelerant detection courses given by the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. I have attended the International Symposium on the Forensic Aspects of Arson Investigation given by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. On 3 different occasions, I have attended the ATF's K-9 recertification program, and I have also completed courses from the Hewlett-Packard Corporation in instrumentation, operation, and maintenance.
And have you been qualified as an expert before in courts,
Yes, I have.
federal and state?
Yes, sir.
Now, can you explain what fire debris analysis is specifically?
When I talk about fire debris analysis, samples from a fire scene are sent into the laboratory, and I am analyzing those samples for the presence of any ignitable liquids. And examples of ignitable liquids would be gasoline, kerosene, and diesel fuel.
Your Honor, at this time we tender Ms. Hodge as an expert in forensic microanalysis.
No.
In the area of fire debris. Thank you.
Don't qualify.
Okay, now, you said you work at the TBI lab in Nashville, is that right?
That's correct?
And is that an accredited forensic lab?
Yes, it is.
Still accredited?
Yes, sir.
What were you asked to do in this particular case?
I was submitted, 2 samples were submitted into our laboratory, and I was asked to analyze those samples for any ignitable liquids.
Let me show you 344. I have to open them up unless you want to. Do you recognize, looking at the outside, 344 and 345?
Yes, I do. Each one of these cans have my laboratory number, exhibit number, the date, and my initials. It also has the TBI evidence tape, which I had resealed.
And what's the point in putting them in these tank cans?
Ignitable liquids can evaporate, and unlike most evidence that's submitted into the laboratory in a brown paper bag, this evidence we request is put into a can because it helps to preserve any ignitable liquids from evaporating.
So what procedure did you follow to test the samples in those cans?
I do what is called a carbon strip recovery method, where I place a piece of activated charcoal in each can. I will heat the cans. The presence of any ignitable liquids in these cans will vaporize during that heating process and basically cling to that piece of activated charcoal. After I let the cans cool, I will remove that carbon strip or activated charcoal and rinse it with a chemical. That chemical rinse is then injected into instrumentation at the laboratory, and by comparing that recorded data with known standards, I'm able to classify any ignitable liquids that may be present.
And what precautions do you take to make sure that your results are going to be accurate?
Oh, there's several steps that I take to ensure the accuracy of the results. I run a known standard at the beginning and the end of my sequence. I run blanks in between each sample to ensure that there's no cross-contamination. I also do a chemical rinse in between each injection to ensure there's no cross-contamination.
And did you prepare a report based on your results from the analysis of those 2 cans?
Yes, I did.
We'll show you 366. Do you recognize what that is?
Yes, this is a copy of my official microanalysis report.
Trying to read off that evidence this time.
All right.
And so, based on that report and your testing, what was your conclusions of those samples there in 344 and 345?
Analysis of exhibits 01A and 02A revealed the presence of an evaporated gasoline range products. Products in this range include all brands and grades of automotive fuels, including gasohol.
So there's different ranges or categories of accelerant, is that right?
Yes, ignitable liquids are placed into categories.
And so how many different categories are there?
Well, the first category would be a light petroleum distillate, and that would be such things as cigarette lighter fluids and camping fuels. The second class would be gasoline range, which is all brands and grades of automotive fuel. The third range is a medium petroleum distillate, which would be paint thinners and mineral spirits. The fourth class is a heavy petroleum distillate, which would be kerosene, diesel fuel, fuel oil number 1, and fuel oil number 2. There's also a set of subclasses that contain a lot of specialty products such as insecticides, some charcoal starters, and copier toners.
And so these fellows, you detected what accelerant in those samples?
Gasoline.
Now, can you explain the evaporation rate of gasoline?
Gasoline is a very volatile liquid, and in natural conditions it can evaporate to the point at which I cannot identify it as gasoline in about 7 days.
So if these were collected on January the 10th of 2007 and sealed, and let's assume with me that they were sealed properly and there was no evaporation, the fact that you were able to detect gasoline in them, what does that indicate to you?
As far as how long it had been there?
Yeah.
Within that 7-day period.
So within 7 days of January the 10th.
Yes.
That's a witness.
We have no questions, John.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, members of the jury, let's go ahead, we'll take a 10-minute recess at this time, and then we'll continue the trial. Thank you. And we may take another break around 4:30, and then we'll try to go right till 6 and stop there. Okay.
10 minutes.
Yes, thank you.
Do you recognize this area? It's okay before you
Sure.
step back. Sorry.
Yes.
You recognize this is being Chipman Street
Yes.
and this is Glider? Where is your house? Okay. Let's see there. Do you recall Monday morning being contacted by the police?
Yes, ma'am.
You can tell us about that, please.
I was asleep until about 1:45 in the morning, and then the police were knocking on my door asking about a vehicle that was parked in front of the house.
Judge, I can't hear.
I'm sorry. Is that better?
That's better.
Okay.
Tell us again.
About 1:45 in the morning, the police were knocking on the door asking about a vehicle that was parked at the stop sign in front of the house.
And did you see the vehicle?
I did when I opened the door for them.
And what type of vehicle was it?
It was a silver 4Runner.
Now, had you seen that vehicle at all earlier?
No.
Had you been outside earlier?
I was outside about midnight on my front porch.
And when you're on your front porch at midnight, did you see the vehicle?
No.
After being on your front porch, where did you then go?
To bed.
Bed. You want to take a look up at the wall? Do you recognize Exhibit 27?
Yes.
And what is Exhibit 27?
Looking at, like, from my front porch, the stop sign in front of the house.
Exhibit 28?
The same. It's a different view. I would be looking from the right over.
What street is this?
That's Glider.
Glider?
Yes.
And the street here?
Chipman.
Exhibit 4?
That's the vehicle that was parked at the stop sign.
Right here?
Yes.
Exhibit 5?
The same vehicle.
Let's move those numbered exhibits in as evidence. For the record, that was
All right.
27 and 28. And if you want to step down and again take a look at Exhibit 29, it's okay for court. You want to mark with a blue marker where the vehicle was when the police knocked on your door at 1:45. And for the record, you have marked with a blue X.
Yes.
Pass those.
Good afternoon, Ms. Michael. You said you were outside around midnight?
Yes, sir.
You didn't see George Thomas, did you?
No.
And those pictures that were just shown to you, the pictures themselves, you don't know when they were taken, do you?
No.
No further questions?
Okay, Ms. Bible, thank you.
Now, at this time, I'd like to read the evidence of prior testimony of Dan Crenshaw. And Investigator Childress is going to stand in for Mr. Crenshaw.
Right here. Solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this case going before the court is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir.
Members of the jury, the next witness, Mr. Crenshaw, has passed away, but he had testified at a prior hearing in this case under oath, and therefore his prior testimony at that hearing is admissible here. So you're to consider this testimony as if the witness was testified live. The officer here is going to sort of act as Mr. Crenshaw, and I can assure you, having listened to many lawyers read depositions of both the question and answer, this will be much more interesting having somebody play the part of the witness than if the lawyer reads both parts.
Thank you. Can you please tell us your name
Daniel Crenshaw,
and spell your last name for us?
Crensaw.
Mr. Crenshaw, where are you employed?
The Knoxville Police Department.
What's your job title with them?
I'm a senior evidence technician. I'm assigned to the fingerprint detail of the forensic unit.
So what are your duties with the Knoxville Police Department?
I spend about half, I work the third shift, the night shift, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. I spend about half my time comparing fingerprints and about half my time answering calls for service to process crime scenes.
And what training have you had in fingerprint identification?
I've worked for 6 years at the FBI as a fingerprint examiner. It was started out that they sent me to 6 weeks FBI school. So I worked up there for 6 years, and then when I came to the police department, I mentored under Art Bohannon, who is world-renowned fingerprint expert, and I had numerous fingerprint trainings in schools, and I achieved a fingerprint certification through the International Association of Identification, one of 750 in the world that are certified by the IAI as a fingerprint examiner.
And how long have you been with the Knoxville Police Department?
It'll be 17 years in February.
And have you been doing fingerprint analysis all that time?
Yes.
So what do you have to do to become certified by the International Association of Identification?
You have to have the training and experience and the background in fingerprint work, and then you have to pass. You have to be recommended by a member, then have to pass a 6-hour test.
And do you have any training after that to keep your certification, or how do they monitor that?
Yes, you have to have remedial training yearly, and any casework you work that results in a bad identification is automatic grounds for losing your certification. So if you make a bad fingerprint match, you lose your certification, and you're retested every, I think it's 5 years for recertification.
Have you ever lost your certification?
No, sir.
At the time, he was recognized then as an expert in print identification.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right.
Now, when we're talking about print identification, how does that work?
Latent fingerprint is a hidden fingerprint at a crime scene. What makes a fingerprint such a good means of identification is the friction skin on the fingers and the palms, and the soles of the feet are permanent. The ridges are permanent, and they are unique to every individual. There's no two that have the same prints, and when I say you, well, they're unique, and they're also constant. They're permanent. They have the same pattern and details throughout life, and they're formed in the second trimester of pregnancy, and they remain the same except for normal wearing and growth. But the pattern themselves remain the same throughout life.
Even though the fingers themselves may get bigger?
They get bigger, but the patterns don't change, and the ridge details do not change.
What about detecting it on items and materials?
Yeah, a latent print is a print left at a crime scene. It's usually invisible until treated with powders or chemicals, but it's unintentionally left at a crime scene. And a crime scene person comes by and treats it with a chemical, and then on non-porous surfaces, they're photographed. On non-porous surfaces, you develop it with powder, and then you put a piece of tape over it, and then you lift it up, and then you can permanently fix it to a card. On porous items such as paper, you treat it with a chemical, and then you photograph it.
And how does if you touch something like that, how does it wind up leaving a print on there?
The fingerprint is formed by the oils and the perspirations and moisture on your fingers or palms or whatever. And whenever you touch something, those liquids and oils adhere to whatever you touch. And that's what is developed. That is what the fingerprint constitutes, is the moisture that you leave deposited on the item you've touched.
Now you work with different surfaces then when you're looking for different materials when you're looking for fingerprints.
Certainly.
Well, what kind of materials do you frequently look at?
The best prints, or the best things are prints, are clean, slick, smooth, flat items. Anything that's got curvatures to it, it makes it susceptible to being smeared print, which is not suitable for identification. To leave identifiable print, there's a lot of misconceptions between a fingerprint and an identifiable print. They're two completely different things. Most fingerprints are not identifiable. To leave an identifiable print, you have to touch something that has a direct release. If you touch something and kind of slide it off, it'll smear where you can't identify it. In order to identify the print, you have to make it exclusive to one person. So you have to have a certain amount of ridge detail in there. And smearing just makes it where you can't say for sure that it's a certain person's fingerprints. So you have to have a pretty small area, granted, but it has to be pretty concise as to the detail of the identifiable fingerprint. So you would print anything now at a crime scene. We'll print anything that might hold a print. I mean, it's just possible to get prints off of cold items such as guns, items cylindric in nature, but the perfect item would be a flat object.
You mentioned guns. Are you aware of any studies about the difficulty or ease of obtaining fingerprints on guns?
ATF did a study a few years back on the probabilities of obtaining identifiable prints from weapons used in crimes, and their results was less. It was less than 10% of weapons used in crimes they're able to identify a fingerprint from. Knoxville Police Department pretty much has the same success rate. It was, I think, about 8% or something like that.
I'm sorry, what percent?
8.
8?
Uh-huh.
That's been your experience about how often you're able to obtain an identifiable print off a gun?
Yes, sir.
What are some surfaces that are typically good candidates for obtaining an identifiable print?
Clean, flat surfaces of plastic, metal, or paper. Paper is a good item to fingerprint because it's one of those porous surfaces. I was talking about where you touch something and the oils, and it's the amino acids and sweat actually absorb into the paper. And we treat it with a chemical that causes the friction ridge patterns to come out in a purplish color. So that's a real good item to fingerprint.
Now, what are some, you mentioned a smear or with the curvature of the surface. What are some other difficulties that might prevent you from obtaining an identifiable print off of different surfaces?
Anything round, or as I said, curved or cylindric, anything dirty. Now, a lot of times you'll see prints on cars and items that are covered in dust, and you can see where somebody touched, but there's no pattern, there's no ridge detail. You can see the individual, you can't see the individual ridges. So that's really of no use at all. You don't know until you treat a surface what kind of fingerprint you're going to get. So I try to treat as many as you can and hope for the best. Of course, we usually have time restraints, but we do what we have. But we do what we can.
Now, let me direct your attention to the early morning hours of January the 8th. That would be a Monday morning, January the 8th, 2007. Do you recall that shift you were working?
Working 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift.
So you came on at 11 p.m. that Sunday night.
That's correct.
All right. You recall responding to a call at Glider in Chipman?
Yes, sir. I got a call from one of the patrol sergeants working. He told me that he had a car he wanted me to come out and photograph because it might be related to a missing person when I get to the scene.
Do you know about what time you responded to the scene?
It was 2 a.m.
All right. Go ahead. Tell us what you found when you went to the scene.
When I get to the scene, I found a silver Toyota 4Runners, and it was parked on the side of Glider facing Chipman, right at the intersection of Glider and Chipman, parked on the side of the street, and family members and patrol officers were standing around.
Okay, so what did you do?
First thing I did was photograph the vehicle, as I recall. As I recall, it was kind of cold and windy that night, and I'm working with a flashlight. I decided to go ahead and look for perishable evidence at the time because I learned at that time there was a body found in the area. The patrol officers told me that day it might be related to this. So I decided to go ahead and process it for anything perishable, such as fingerprints or anything that we might lose if we went ahead and towed it to the pound. So I processed the exterior non-porous surfaces for fingerprints at that time, and I kind of inventoried the vehicle.
Inventory the interior of the vehicle?
Yes.
Could you tell anything about the vehicle as far as, did you think you were getting good candidates for identifiable prints?
It was a clean vehicle, and I expected I would be able to get some good clean prints, but I wasn't getting very good prints. The car was very clean, or very, very clean. Hardly anything on the inside. I thought there was a good chance at that time, and I think I put it on my report that the vehicle had been wiped down.
Now, did you confiscate any of the items in the interior of the vehicle at that time?
The only thing I confiscated was some long brown hairs that the front passenger window had been rolled up on, that were sticking out of between the window and the top of the window.
When you say long, do you know about how long they were?
About 6 inches, I believe.
What else did you do there besides, you said you photographed the vehicle?
I photographed it, inventoried it, and had it towed to the pound.
And why didn't you do any further processing there at the scene?
I'm working by myself at night with a flashlight. The wind's blowing. I didn't want to lose any hair or fiber evidence, and I thought there were several people works day shift. I thought they could probably do a better job during the daylight than I could at night, working with a flashlight with one hand. In a secured environment is where you want to process vehicles or something significant like that, if at all possible.
So what did you had it impounded? What do you mean by that?
I sent it to the city impound lot, which is a secured environment. It's behind a fence, there's a guard there, and we put it in a shed out there.
Now, were you able to go back on that particular shift and examine the lifts that you had made to see if you had any identifiable prints?
No, sir, I didn't have time that night. I got busy with other calls, and I didn't. The only thing I did regarding that call for the rest of the evening was send emails out to major crimes in the crime lab stating what I did do and what I didn't do.
Okay, major crimes. You're talking about the investigator on the case?
Yes, sir.
So you get off at 7 that morning?
That's correct.
Now, when you came back on, well, first of all, let me ask you before we move on, where you found the vehicle at, Glider and Chipman. Do you know approximately how far that is to 2316 Chipman Street?
A little over 2 blocks. It's right at the 2100 block is where the Glider intersects with Chipman.
And at that time, you had no reason to suspect anything at 2316, you yourself?
No.
And so when you got off at 7 o'clock, you came back on at 11 o'clock Monday evening.
That's correct.
What did you do then when you came back on at 11 o'clock that evening?
I had seen media reports that day that the body that had been found in that area had been identified, I think tentatively identified at the time as Christopher Newsom. So I knew that at the time, I knew the significance of this call. I tried to call people at work, didn't have much success. Got a hold of one person and told him if he got by the pound to get an envelope out of that vehicle. I don't believe I touched on this envelope earlier, but during the inventory of the vehicle, there I had noticed a bank envelope enfolded in a lady's jacket in the back seat of the vehicle, and I thought about the bank envelope all morning, and thought that there was a pretty good chance that whoever wiped down the vehicle might not have realized that if he had touched that bank envelope, it would hold a print. A lot of people don't realize paper will hold prints. So I thought about the bank envelope, and I called somebody on second shift and asked him and told them what was going on, and asked him if he got by the pound to pick up the envelope. We need to process it, but they were busy and didn't get a chance, so I went by the pound and got the bank envelope out of the vehicle on my way to work and took it back to the building and processed it.
So when you came back in on that Monday night, Monday night, 11 p.m., on the way into work, you went by the impound lot and picked up the bank envelope.
That's correct. I stopped by the pound on my way to work.
So what did you do when you got back to the police station with that envelope?
I saturated with a chemical called anhydrine, which is, I said, it works and reacts with amino acids and sweat perspiration, and I soaked it good. And then I think I answered another call while it was drying. After you treat it, you have to let it dry, which normally takes about an hour. So I went and answered a call, and I came back and I steamed it. That helps to develop the prints. After it dries, you apply steam to it, and I developed some fingerprints on the envelope.
Okay. Now, were you able to compare those prints to the prints you had on file?
What I did was enter them into the APHIS, which is Automated Fingerprint Identification System. It's a statewide digital fingerprint database. Approximately 2 million prints are in it. So I entered the latent fingerprint on the bank envelope into APHIS, and what APHIS does is it gives you candidates of a match, and you just compare it to whatever candidates it gives you and see if there's a match, and candidate number 1 was a match.
And who was the individual?
Lamarcus Davidson.
Now, had you had any knowledge about him or anything come up in the investigation about him at that point?
I'd never heard the name before.
Okay, once you made that match to Lamarcus Davidson, what did you do?
I notified people.
About what time are we talking about then that you made that match?
About 2 p.m. or 2 a.m.
So we're into Tuesday morning?
Correct.
The 9th, January the 9th?
I think that's correct, yes.
Who did you notify?
I called the lead investigator on the case, Todd Childers. He's the only one I called that night. I sent emails out to everybody, and I think everybody in major crimes and everybody in the crime lab.
All right, now, was that considered an official match then at that point? Were there any other steps that needed to be taken?
Another step needs to be taken before it's an official match. You have to get it verified by another fingerprint examiner. That's the safeguard system we have in place to make sure we don't charge the wrong person on anything. So if I make a match, at the police department, we have 2 certified fingerprint examiners, myself and Tim Shade. So if I make a match, Tim has to verify it, and vice versa. Tim works 7 a.m. till 3 p.m. So what I did was call him the next morning about 6:30 and tell him I needed him to come in as soon as possible and verify this fingerprint match or to look at it.
So you're aware that whether Officer Shade was able to make a match on that or verify what you had done?
Yes, he called me, I guess, about 7:30 and told me he'd verified it.
So that was then we're into 7:30 Tuesday morning?
Correct.
And also, were you able to obtain an address on Lamarcus Davidson when you identified and made a match?
Yes, sir, I was. It was 2316 Chipman.
Now, did you do any other fingerprint work in this case?
A significant amount, yes.
Let's talk about, let me ask you this before we go further on that. When you finished your shift on Tuesday morning about 7 a.m., where did you go?
Before I left at 7, I went by the Chipman Street address.
2316 Chipman?
Yes.
Why did you do that?
To see if there's anything that I could see that I could react to at the time.
Did you stop and go up and knock on the door or anything like that?
No, I didn't. I didn't want to spook or scare away any possible perpetrators there. And I don't know if I should have or not, but following the SOP of the police department, I really didn't have the authority to do that.
Why is that?
Because I'm a civilian. I'm not an officer, for one thing.
You need some water?
No.
That's
And if I had done that, I could have jeopardized the case.
The jury may not understand the distinction there between a civilian with the police. I mean, you're wearing a uniform here this morning, right?
Yeah, I don't have a badge on, though.
Okay, do you carry a weapon?
I do not.
So you're not considered a police officer?
No, I'm a civilian.
What did you observe about the house when you went by there that Tuesday morning?
There was a TV or something on inside. Other than that, everything was quiet and appeared to be quiet.
Did you see anybody? Could you see anybody in the house?
Saw no activity or no sign of people.
What about any vehicles out front? Did you see any cars?
Not that I recall. I don't remember seeing one.
Okay, now let me ask you about these other fingerprint work you did in the case. Do you recall working with Mr. Shade is Mr. Shade an officer as well?
No, he's a civilian.
Okay, so he goes by Mr. Shade as well?
Correct.
Okay, Mr. Shade, did you work with him on processing some garbage bags that you had recovered from Chipman Street?
Yes, after I went by there briefly, after they had found Miss Christian in the garbage bags, and I transported her to the forensic center. I went there long enough to ascertain that she had been in the garbage bags, and they had went to the forensic center. At the time, I called Larry Vineyard from the medical examiner's office and asked him to meet us at the forensic center so we could get the trash bags and contents over to Miss Christian and bring them back to start processing them. I figured that would be the best thing to get fingerprint evidence off of.
Did you go with Mr. Shade to get that?
We went at that time about 9 p.m. Tuesday evening. We went to the forensic center and signed out trash bags, trash barrels, and contents other than Miss Christian.
What did you do with those garbage bags?
Plastic garbage bags, the best way to process them for fingerprints is with super glue fumes. So you have to put them in an enclosed chamber with a hot plate, put super glue on the hot plate, and the fumes and super glue adhere to the fingerprints and make them come out in a white color, a white crusty permanent fingerprint color. So we did that. And it took a long time because you have constantly do a little more and a little more until you get it just right. If you overcook it, you'll destroy the prints. So you have to kind of go gradually, and we're able to develop fingerprints on, I think, identifiable fingerprints on 3 of the trash bags.
Okay, how many total were there?
It was 5 large bags and 1 small bag.
What color was the small bag?
White.
Okay, so you were able to get prints off of 3 of those black garbage bags?
3 of the large black bags. Actually, I think she had been enclosed in 5 bags. We got prints that we matched on the outer 3 bags.
Okay, you yourself developed the one on the outermost bag?
That's correct.
It was your understanding it was the outermost bag that she had been in?
Correct.
And tell us about what prints you found on that.
Identify the print of Lamarcus Davidson's palm.
Do you recall what part of his palm it was?
Yeah, it was called the thenar area. It's the thumb side, right close to the middle crease, but right there.
Now, we talked a little bit about difficulties. What are the difficulties of obtaining prints from a garbage bag?
Well, the main thing you're dealing with the wrinkles and crinkles of something of that texture. Because if you touch something and it's wrinkled when you touch it, of course, when you straighten it back out, the print is going to be pretty hard to identify. So it almost has to be flat when it's touched in order to identify the print, unless you're able to wrinkle it back to where it was when it was touched by the friction skin.
So you said it was Lamarcus Davidson's palm print on one of those bags?
Yeah. Identified the outer Davidson's palm print on the outer bag, and then Mr. Shade identified his prints on the next 2 bags.
Lamarcus Davidson's?
Yes, sir.
And to be clear, did you find any prints from George Thomas on any of those bags?
We didn't find any prints from anybody else on those bags that we were able to identify.
What about a shoe show pay stub that was confiscated from?
Yes, we made some identifications on this case.
Take your time.
I've got them up and down here. Mr. Davidson's prints were identified on a Shannon's pay stub, a Blockbuster card, a trash bag box, 9mm magazine, and a photograph of Shannon.
I'm sorry, let me just talk about the shoe show pay stub. You're talking about those are prints that you got?
Well, I think that was Shannon's pay stub. I identified his print on Shannon's pay stub. I believe it was a shoe store.
Whose prints are you talking about?
Davidson.
Lamarcus Davidson?
Yes.
And if do you know where that was recovered, if you do?
At 2316 Chipman is all I know.
What about a photograph, what you labeled as photograph number 5? Do you recall that photograph?
Yes, it was with a group of other photographs that had been torn and thrown in a trash can that were, I believe they were of a birthday party that Shannon had is what I was told. But it was all young Caucasian, I think all females. Several pictures of Shannon were in this group. and it was one of Shannon's pictures that the print was identified on.
Now, did you find George Thomas's fingerprints on any of the items you looked at?
I did not.
In this case at all?
Did not.
Let's look at some photographs real quick if we can.
This is the forerunner I found.
Yeah, should be the same number. Can you see?
Yeah, this is the forerunner as I found it that night at Chipman and Glider.
I don't have these numbers, but I believe this is going to be exhibit number 5. You took that photograph,
I did.
and that's how the forerunner appeared to you there at Glider and Chipman on early Monday morning?
Yes, sir.
And this is
The cargo area of the forerunner.
exhibit number 13. That's how it appeared to you when you responded to the scene?
Yes, sir. There was mud in. That's a picture of the floorboard behind the driver's seat. There's mud and debris in the floor.
That's exhibit 10.
That's the back seat area. You can see the gray jacket there in the middle of the back seat floor.
That's exhibit 9. You had talked about earlier about a bank envelope wrapped in the jacket. There's a laser pointer up there in front of you. It looks like a pen.
Yeah, it's hard to see. Actually, it's engulfed in the jacket, and that's hard to see on this picture.
Okay, I think the next one's a little closer. That was exhibit 9.
Yeah, you can.
Let's see. Okay. And this was exhibit 11.
Yeah, you can see it right there. That little white item is, and when I took this picture, I didn't probably even notice it. In fact, I don't think I did notice it. But at night, everything is dark, and when you take a picture, the flash illuminates it briefly. So I didn't even notice it when I took the picture. That's looked like a broken cord in the back seat from maybe a cell phone.
I believe that's exhibit number 12. And exhibit 7. Okay, that's exhibit number 7. Thank you.
Actually, I don't recall what that. It looks like a torn piece of paper on the side of on the driver's side behind the seat there.
Thank you. Okay, you turn it back on. Let me ask you to identify some physical exhibits. Let me show you what's been marked exhibit 350 and ask you if you recognize what it is. Let me show you what's been marked exhibit 350 and ask you if you recognize what it is.
Yes, I do. This is the bank envelope, the identifiable mark that's on the back seat of the Toyota.
I know you've got, is that your notations there?
They are.
Can you explain what that's showing us?
I have actually identified 2 prints on this bank envelope. One of them's on the card is circled. It's Davidson's right thumbprint here, and this circle here is Shannon's Christian's left middle fingerprint, like that indicated.
And there's some other paperwork in here. Can you explain what it is?
They're enlargements of the APHIS hits, and of the APHIS hits with a known part or known print of Lamarcus Davidson's right thumb print beside the latent fingerprint developed on the bank envelope.
There's some red dots there. Can you explain what that is?
The red dots are the points of minutia that were compared and matched. That's how you affect a fingerprint match. They're called Gallatin points. It is the endings of bifurcations or intersections of the individual ridges. So of course you have to magnify them significantly to see that. But what we do is match one to another and see if it's a constant number of ridges and surrounding areas where they relate to each other the same.
So these are basically documents then that you generated through processing and trying to make an identifiable print and match.
That's correct.
We'd offer that, whatever that number is, 350 into evidence. Each time it was accepted. Let me show you 351 and ask if you recognize what it is.
It's labeled Shannon's Shoe Store Receipt, Identification to Davidson, and that is a pay receipt from the shoe show that Davidson's fingerprint was identified on. It's his left ring fingerprint, and these sometimes they kind of slide around here, but I drew an arrow on the plastic bag pointing where the fingerprint was, and it was photographed. You can hardly see it on the stub because it's faded over the last couple of years, but the photographs of the fingerprints have not. And that's the enlarged fingerprint that was developed on the pay stub.
So again, this is more documents that you generated during your examination?
Yes, again, it's the latent fingerprint and the known fingerprint of the marked points of minutia, marked in the red there, and the similarity, and that's how the identification was made.
And it's your understanding that this was from the interior of the house, 2316 shipment, that's where it was recovered anyway?
Yes, let me see how I've got them labeled. I've got it labeled garbage bag next to trash can per Joe. So Joe Cox confiscated this, and I got it from him. That's where he told me he got it from.
We'll offer 351 into evidence at this time. Let me show you what's been marked. 361. Ask if you recognize what that is. You may have to take them out, I don't know.
It's labeled pictures from the garbage bag found in the utility room, processed by Crenshaw. That's not my writing, though. But
this process by Crenshaw, that's not your writing?
No, these are the pictures I was talking about. If I believed it was at a birthday party, if I'm not mistaken, that they were powder on the slick side and anhydrous on the paper side. And that's after they were anhydrous. I think they were stacked on top of each other to dry. That's what caused some distortion in some of the pictures. Is messed up, some of the photographs. But one of these pictures of Shannon was the one a print was identified on as Davidson's fingerprint.
What did you do to number those or identify those?
I numbered the ones I got prints off of in red ink, and it was.
I think you previously said it was number 5.
Number 5, let me see if I can find it here. Actually, I don't see. I believe this might be it right here. Yeah, it's one of these two. They both look alike, 3s, but the inks ran, and so one of them is number 5, and they both appear to be pictures of white females, and the one I made the match on was Shannon's picture.
All right, and whose print was that on there?
LaMarcus Davidson's.
Thank you. I believe that's already been introduced as 361. I might have just a moment. I'm close to being done. Let me show you Exhibit 338 and ask if you recognize what that is.
This is a piece cut out of the bag, the exterior bag that Miss Christian's body was found in. You can see some white residue if you look closely on this. This is put on this hoop to kind of stretch it out so you could work with it. But this is the bag and the fingerprint that was cut out that was identified as Davidson's palm print.
I noticed it's got bag number 1 on there. Is that the way you numbered it?
I started from the outside in. Someone else started from the inside out. So that's the exterior bag.
This is the exterior bag that you found his palm print on.
That's correct.
And the purpose of stretching it on this hoop?
To get the wrinkles out so you can photograph a true representation of the palm print.
And have How did you remove this from the bag itself, if it's...
Actually, I think it was cut out. I don't know if I did it or Tim did it, but it was cut out of the bag, the original that it was on.
Would offer 338. Let me see if I can find that bag it was cut out of. Let me show you Exhibit 334. Ask if you can take that out, hold it up for the jury to see it, and tell them what it is.
The exterior bag that the hoop print was cut out of.
This was basically in the middle of the bag then? Is that what you're...
Approximately, yes.
Would offer that as exhibit number 334. I noticed there are there's one other piece, an item in here.
Yeah, this was cut out of the same bag and it's marked insufficient for identification.
That's your writing?
Yes.
Can you hold that bag up again? So there's a smaller.
Right. Yes.
So the smaller one here, you didn't find anything on that one?
Correct. The one I matched was of this area.
Was Davidson's from this part right here?
Right.
Thank you. Based on your experience of fingerprints and the way they were left and the placement of that particular palm print on that bag, is that consistent with something being heavy in a bag and being lifted up?
Yes. Notice it was a palm. It wasn't fingers that was matched. So if you grab a hold of something, you're going to leave fingerprints, not palm prints. Palm is consistent with pressing or lifting something. We didn't match any fingerprints on the bags. It's all palm prints, and it has to be some resistance to it. If you just touch a loose bag, there probably won't be enough resistance to transfer the fluids or moisture from your hand to the item.
That's fascinating.
Could I see Exhibit 5? You could dim the lights for a minute. Mr. Crenshaw, this was where you photographed the Toyota 4Runner, correct?
Correct.
And approximately what time of day?
2 a.m.
And there were street lights in that area, correct?
I think there was some on Chipman Street.
And you took this photograph from a distance of what, maybe 10 feet, 15 feet?
Approximately, yes.
Okay, that's all on the lights. Thank you. Now, Mr. Crenshaw, I believe you said you did a significant amount of work in this case. Is that correct?
I think the whole crime lab did, yes, sir.
I think you did. I mean, you took fingerprints and other evidence from the 4Runner all over it, right? I mean...
I just processed the exterior that night. I never saw the 4Runner after that night.
And you processed the house?
I'm sorry, I just misspoke. I did go back and get the envelope the next day.
So you got stuff from the interior of the 4Runner?
I went back the next day and got the envelope.
All right, and you also had access to garbage bags that were in the garbage can?
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
And you processed those?
Yes.
And you processed a significant amount of material connected with this case?
Well, I myself did more comparing than processing, but I think I processed the envelope, the garbage bags, and the pictures of Shannon's pictures. I think that's about the extent of what I processed.
And I believe you said on direct examination that you fingerprinted everything you could at the crime scene.
No, sir.
You left something out?
I didn't fingerprint the items at the crime scene, sir.
You fingerprinted a significant amount of, or tried to get fingerprints from a significant amount of material, correct?
I spent probably 5 minutes at the crime scene, sir.
Where else did you go?
I went to the forensic center.
All right, what did you do there?
I got the garbage bags.
All right, and you processed them?
Yes, sir.
And you found fingerprints on the bank envelope, correct?
From the vehicle, yes, sir.
And you found fingerprints from the pay stub?
Yes, sir.
And the photograph of the pictures that we've seen, the photographs of Shannon
Shannon.
at the birthday party?
Correct.
You photographed and fingerprinted, you fingerprinted those, tried to fingerprint.
I fingerprinted the paper or the hard side. Someone else fingerprinted the paper side.
And everything else that you determined from your experience that could be identified was of Mr. Davidson, correct?
I think we got some to some other people too.
You got some from Mr. Cobbins, did you not?
We did.
And during all of this examination and processing, did you find any fingerprints whatsoever of George Thomas?
I couldn't not positively identify any fingerprints to George Thomas, no, sir.
So the answer is no. There were no identifiable fingerprints of George Thomas.
That's correct.
And you said that your work was verified by Tim Shade.
Correct.
So anything that you took and made a comparison on was verified by Tim Shade.
Any identifications either one of us makes, the other has to agree.
So everything you did where you identified a print was verified by Tim Shade.
Yes, sir.
And was the reverse true as well?
Yes, sir.
What exactly did Tim Shade do that you didn't do, as far as identifying prints?
We just looked at different items. It was something like I said, it was a significant amount of items processed on this, and we just both looked at prints as they came in, and we both fingerprinted some items too. We basically did the same thing, just with different items.
So if I understand the process, you were the original examiner on some of the items.
Correct.
Correct? And then Mr. Shade would verify any identification you made.
Correct.
And then on the other items, Mr. Shade was the original examiner.
Correct.
Correct?
Correct.
And if he made identification, you would verify it.
Correct.
So did you all split up the work, would you say about the same?
Yes, approximately, yes.
And you both did, as you said, a significant amount of examination of items.
Certainly.
Did any of the items that Mr. Shade found, fingerprint-wise, were any of those attributed to George Thomas?
We're not able to identify his positive. We're not able to positively identify his prints to any items on this case.
Either the ones that Mr. Shade did or the ones that you did?
That's correct.
No further questions.
Well, you made good witness. Next, please.
Keith Vogt.
Raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this case pending before this court be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do, sir. Listen. You got you, man.
Give your name, sir.
My name is Lieutenant Keith Bow.
Can you spell your last name, please?
DE capital BOW.
Where are you employed?
With the Knoxville Police Department.
How long have you been employed with the Knoxville Police Department?
Since 1995, about 18 years. You got you, man.
Give your name, sir.
My name is Lieutenant Keith LeBeau,
Can you spell your last name, please?
DE, capital B-O-W,
Where are you employed?
with the Knoxville Police Department.
How long have you been employed with the Knoxville Police Department?
Since 1995, about 18 years.
What is your position with the Knoxville Police Department?
Currently, I'm the administrative officer in the patrol district for the west side of town.
Do you also have another position?
I do. I'm the commander of the Special Operations Squad, better known as SWAT team.
What is the Special Operations Squad?
We're a SWAT team. We respond to high-risk warrant service, barricaded suspects, hostage rescue, situations that would require further manpower, a little better weapons and equipment than the standard patrol officers use.
Sir, did you have the occasion, with the Special Operations Squad, to assist the Major Crimes Unit in serving a warrant at 2316 Chipman Street?
I did, ma'am.
That will be on Tuesday, January the 8th,
January 8th, I believe it was.
2007. If you could tell us about that, please.
Myself and Sergeant Josh Schaefer were attending a school. We got called away from that to assist the Criminal Investigative Division in the execution of the search warrant on Chipman Street. We responded to the safety building first. We responded first to the safety building, secured some equipment, and went on down to Chipman Street and met up with Investigator Childress at the time and some other folks. And we were told about the search warrant. We were told that CID was going to attempt to gain compliance or entrance into the residence, doing a knock and talk or just knocking on the door and trying to get into the residence. If they were unable to do that, they would back out. We would move forward and enter the residence, whether forcibly or whether it was open. We would enter the residence, clear the residence, and secure it so they can continue the investigation.
Okay. And so once you developed this plan, what did you do next?
We waited, and the investigators went up, attempted to gain entrance. They got nowhere with that, backed out. We went up and we made entry and cleared the residence.
And when you say you cleared the residence, what does that mean?
We went up in unison as a group. We slowly, methodically went through room by room, searching for any suspects or victims of crimes that were in there. Our mission was to secure anyone inside the residence and basically make a safe working environment for these gentlemen to continue their work.
Now, I think there is a laser pointer up there. Right there. And do you recognize Exhibit 302?
I do.
What do you recognize Exhibit 302 to be?
And that is a basic layout of the house on Chipman Street itself.
And if you could, you use the laser pointer and show the jury, I guess, the route you took and enter the house. You don't need to pull it. You probably take the judge up on his suggestion about moving to the middle of the courtroom. It's okay if he were to step down?
It is, sure. That's down to some of that.
January 9th.
February 9th. Alright, basic layout of the house, the front porch in here. This is an enclosed front porch. I don't know how much the laser pointer is going to help us. But the road's coming through here, Chipman Street. We approach this way, come up to the house, and enter. I was the first man in the door. Not only was the commander, I was a scout from the entry team. So we come up to the residence. As we approach and go into this enclosed front porch, we announce, and throughout the whole house, we're announcing police search warrant, police search warrant. We approach through this front door right here, and there is a blanket in front of that doorway. I pulled it down again, announced the police search warrant. Myself and I think it was Lieutenant Faulkner had entered through into this main room, and there is a bedroom off to the side here. That was our initial, what caught our attention as a danger area, an open door. We entered into the bedroom and cleared it. As the rest of the team was moving through here, I entered into the bedroom, or the bathroom here, in between the two bedrooms. And about that time, everybody started yelling clear. So we cleared two officers. Everybody just kind of flooded through there and evenly secured the residence. As we were clearing through here, I noticed a couple of things. We had some pistol magazines in the bedroom. There was a rifle, I believe, an M1 carbine in the closet. And about the time everything was cleared, I was in the bathroom somewhere. So once we yelled clear, I yelled for a fact check. We cleared it once. Now we want to double check our work and make sure that everything is secure and we have everybody that we were looking for. So once I called for the fact check, I stepped into the kitchen and I noticed in the corner a trash can that was oddly out of shape. Lieutenant Fort was in the kitchen at that time. I caught his attention, called him and pointed at the trash can. He sees it immediately, has the same assumptions that I did, that someone or something was possibly in there. And he brings his weapon up to bear on it, and I do as well. And I approached the can with my weapon to bear. I popped the lid and I found the victims in the trash can, underarmed there.
And while you're standing there, she's a martyr. You said that there was a blanket. You had to pull a blanket down?
Yes.
Where was that blanket?
There was a blanket across this door. I marked it as blanket.
Yes, sir.
And there was another one on this door. This is where we entered through at. Blanket here as well.
And that's when you're leading into the front bedroom?
Yes.
Now in the front bedroom, what were the items that you noticed?
We had a rifle here. And there was a couple of pistol magazines. Pistol mags there.
Now, where in the kitchen did you find the trash can?
In this corner of the kitchen itself. Mark that as trash can.
Yes, sir. And in this house, did you find any interior doors whatsoever?
Found this one, none of them that were closed, at least that I came in. So I can't speak for the other officers through here, but I don't believe there were.
And that right there was going to be the blanket?
Yeah, blanket at this door and blanket at this door.
All right.
So that.
We can go through a few pictures. Exhibit 34? Where has Exhibit 34?
Yes, ma'am.
And what is Exhibit 34?
That is the trash can where the victim was found.
Exhibit 36?
Yes, ma'am.
Is this how she looked when you looked in the lid?
Yes, ma'am.
I can move Exhibit 34 and 36 in his evidence.
Right.
So I get my dates right. All right, so this is Tuesday, January 9th. After discovering the victim's body in the trash can, what did you do next?
We still had an unknown area. We had a basement area and a crawl space area that had not been cleared. A crawl space area up top. So we held that. We called CID and I called Sergeant Snarley at the time to come and notify him of finding the victim. But we still had an unsecured area, so we went on to work with that. I believe it was myself and Lieutenant Jeff Stiles went back to the building, got some camera equipment. We came back and cleared, dealt with the little area in a closet to get up into the attic crawl space, and we cleared it. Once that was accomplished, the crawl space had been cleared, we packed our gear up and went back to work.
Now, were you called back out to assist major crimes with the arrest of the suspect on Thursday, January 9th, 2011?
Yes.
2007?
Was that January 9th?
January 11th.
January 11th. I think the 9th was the Chipman Street, is that correct? A couple
Yes.
days ago, yes.
Yes, I was called there once again. I was in the same school from 2 days prior. We got called away to execute an arrest warrant. We got called over to the police academy, which is off of Western Avenue. We were told the suspect was held up in an abandoned house or an empty house not too far away off of Western Avenue. We developed a plan of action to take the suspect into custody, which initially we were planning to either call him out, and if he didn't come out, we would deploy chemical agents into the house to try to get him out.
So what do you do when you arrive there at the house?
We pulled up to the house itself in our armored vehicle and had several others, but we established a quick containment. We used the public address system on the armored vehicle and called him out as the gas teams were deploying into position. And he came to the window of the house, and we addressed him from that position. Once we had him in a specific position, we kept him there. I approached that window. We wound up breaking the window out and having him come out that window, pull him out of that window, and took him into custody from there.
Once he was placed into custody, what did you and your team then do?
We packed up our equipment, put it away, and went back to work.
I can direct your attention to the wall there. You recognize Exhibit 268?
I do.
What is Exhibit 268?
That is the house the suspect was located in.
And you see the window?
I do. Use the laser pointer?
Yes, sir.
That was the window the suspect came to, and it's the window. I broke that window out, and we got the suspect out of that window.
And for the record, was that Mr. Davidson?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
271?
Yes, ma'am.
And what is 271?
And this is from an angle that I didn't get to look at. I was, of course, outside here. This is the window from which he came out, and that's the cell phone. He had that cell phone in his hand at the window there. And I don't know exactly what that is, whether it's his jacket or not. I don't know. I did not go in there inside there.
I'm doing the evidence Exhibit 268 and 271.
All right.
Pass the witness.
Afternoon, Sergeant Buffett. Lieutenant, I'm sorry.
That's
I'm
quite all right.
sorry.
Sergeant at the time. So.
Yes, I'm sorry. Lieutenant DeBow. My approach witness, Ron. I think you were asking questions about, if I got my exhibit numbers correct, Exhibit 302, this diagram. And I wasn't able to see too well when we were testifying on direct examination. But the right area, the room in the right area of the diagram, that's the north, what's labeled north bedroom. That's the bedroom area where you found the rifle M1 carbine, right?
Yes, sir.
And you found the, you said
Pistol magazine.
Pistol magazines. I was having that. It looked like pistol walls to me. I was having a hard time. You found the pistol magazines there as well. And as far as you're concerned, what you found, that's the only place in the house you found any firearms or ammunition.
Those are the things that were obvious to me, and you have to understand what the tactical unit's mission is that we're looking. Those are just observations I made as we were clearing through, looking for persons.
Right, and that, once again, as far as what you found,
yes,
that's the only firearm and ammunition you found in the house.
Yes, sir.
And it was in that front bedroom.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Fitzgerald, if you don't mind, can you redisplay Exhibit 34? That is the garbage can that you testified that you located back in the kitchen area in the back portion of the home, right, sir?
Yes, sir.
And when you discovered that garbage can, when you open it up, you're wearing rubber gloves, right?
No, sir.
No?
No, sir.
rubber gloves are being worn by whoever's in the photograph, right?
Yes, sir.
Do you wear rubber gloves if you're going to handle evidence like that?
If I was going to handle evidence, yes, sir.
Okay. So you didn't handle any evidence yourself?
No, sir.
Okay. Yeah, but whoever's in the photograph is going to have rubber gloves on before they handle any of that evidence, right?
Yes, sir.
And that's to make certain that the evidence is preserved, right, sir?
I can't speak to a detective. I wear rubber gloves to keep myself safe from getting any diseases or anything else.
Contaminating yourself.
Contaminating myself or the evidence itself.
Right. Contaminating yourself or contaminating the evidence.
Yes, sir.
Right. We'll turn the lights back on. I don't have any further questions, Your Honor.
Okay, Lieutenant, thank you.
I think I was Joe Cox.
You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give in this case pending before the court is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
Please tell us your name, spell your last name.
Joe Cox, COX,
Where you work,
Knoxville Police Department.
what's your position within?
Right now, I run the photo lab,
How long have you been with the Knoxville Police Department?
39 years.
Was all that as a working in forensics?
No, sir. I started out as a patrolman and then worked in forensics, answering calls. And then
Within?
right now, I run the photo lab,
How long have you been with the Knoxville Police Department?
39 years.
Was all that as a working in forensics?
No, sir. I started out as a patrolman and then worked in forensics, answering calls, and then now I'm in the photo lab.
Now, are you considered an officer or a civilian?
I'm an officer.
Officer Cox, where were you assigned in January of 2007?
The forensics unit, crime lab, calls for service.
And have you had any training for that position?
Yes, sir, quite a bit. Just ATF, bomb scene investigation, arson investigation, the FBI, a series of fingerprinting classes through the FBI, photography classes through the FBI, and photography classes through Nikon.
And when you're working with in the Deputy Forensics Unit as a crime scene specialist, what's your responsibility?
Working crime scenes, just try to determine if there's any evidence on the crime scene and using that evidence to determine who committed the crime and then prosecute the person. And we document the crime scene any way we can, any way we feel it's necessary.
Does that include photographing crime scenes? From
Yes,
time to
sir.
time? And videotaping?
Yes, sir.
Let me direct your attention to Tuesday, January the 9th, 2007. Do you recall that day?
Yes, sir.
Did you have respond to 2316 Chipman Street on that day?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay, about what time did you arrive?
About 1:40 or about 10 till 2 or a little bit before 2 that afternoon.
And
What did you find there at 2316 Chittenden?
When I arrived, the scene had been secured, and I was shown through the house, the different parts of the house, but the main thing back in the kitchen, in a blue garbage can, was the body of Shannon Christian.
So you weren't the first one in the house?
No, sir, I was not.
They had already
Cleared
gone through and cleared it?
Yes, sir.
And so you were coming in to do what?
To process the crime scene.
What do you mean by process?
Preserve it through photographs and the videotape, and try to determine what evidence could be used to determine who committed the crime, and try to identify who it was, and try to determine what all had happened during the commission of the crime.
Now, at that point, they cleared the house. Had they started confiscating any evidence, removing any evidence from the house?
No, sir.
And so what did you do first?
I walked through the scene just to get a general idea of what was in the house. I then took my video camera and videotaped the scene. And then I put that aside, and I took my still camera and started going through the scene, looking at anything I thought might have importance as evidence, and I'd photograph it and try to remember where it was, and I photographed as much as I could at the scene. And this is a process. It's not something I do immediately. And then I'd go back, and I called for Technician Shade to come out to help with some of the evidence and to determine some of the, do the chemical processes on some of it at the scene. And I asked for Patty Resig to come out and do the crime scene drawing. And then we just continued with Lieutenant Hamlin there also to process the scene, photograph what we thought would be good evidence, and then confiscate it.
And so, talking about the video of the house, just so to orient the jury before we play it for them, you can use this and this. She's going to have a hard time seeing it. Can you see it now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just walk them through how you went through the house to videotape it.
This is the front door, the front porch. It's glass, it's got windows around the edges. We go in, this is the living room and the fireplace, and then this has been there too since it's happened. I believe I went in this room, the north or front bedroom, went through the bathroom into the south or rear bedroom, went into the kitchen, and then that's where the trash can was, and I believe I went back into the utility room.
Thank you. I think we're still trying to lay our hands on that video. I'll tell you what we can do. We can go ahead and, unless Ron wants to take a break, we can go ahead and look at the photographs.
No, we'll take a break around 4:30 so we can.
Okay, we'll just go to the photographs. We'll play the video in a little bit. You also, after taking the video, you took some photographs of the scene.
Yes, sir.
Let me show you these photographs. We'll identify them now, and then we'll put them up here for everybody to see. Let me show you first, starting with Exhibit 37 through 41. You just flip through those, and generally those pictures you took of the sunroom?
Yes, sir. In the front of the house.
In the front of the house. That's Exhibits 37 through 41 we'd offer into evidence.
All right.
And then the living room, Exhibits 42 through 53. Those appear to be the pictures you took of the living room.
Yes, sir.
We'd offer those into evidence. 54 through 83. Does that appear to be pictures that you took of the north bedroom?
For the, what's called the north bedroom, also the front bedroom, closest to the front of the house.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, those are that.
Exhibit 54 through 83. 84 through 93, those appear to be the ones you took of the bathroom.
Yes, sir.
Get off of those, 84 through 93. And then 94 through 102, does that appear to be the south bedroom or the back bedroom?
Yes, sir, it does.
Again, just like the video, these were taken before any evidence was removed.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's look at I'll offer those into evidence. 94 through 102, and then 103 through 108. Those appear to be the laundry room.
Yes, sir.
We'll call the laundry room utility room.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, they are.
Would offer 103 through 108 into evidence.
Right.
And then 109 through 129. Does that appear to be pictures that you took of the kitchen as you found it that day?
Yes, sir.
Would offer 109 to 129 into evidence. So let's take a look at those.
And there's a laser pointer up there. We'll break up on it.
Okay, yes, sir.
Starting off with I didn't ask you about this, 364, do you recognize what that is?
Yes, sir, that's a view of the front of the house on Chipman Street, 2316 Chipman.
Get off of that as well, if it hasn't already.
I think we already have that, but,
Thank you.
yeah.
Okay, exhibit 38,
All right, that is the front glassed-in porch of the house.
you can also call it sunroom.
Yes, sir.
What room are you looking into there?
That is the living room.
And is that from the standing at the front door where you're taking
Yes,
the
it
picture?
is. Yes, sir. And that's inside the front door, looking to the west side wall, and there's a set of shelves right at the end of the porch.
That's exhibit 39 and exhibit 40.
That's just looking straight into the shelves that we just saw a second ago on the porch. And those are 5.22 caliber long rifle cartridge cases.
Those were on the shelf there in the
And
sunroom.
the bottom shelf on the sunroom.
Exhibit 42,
And this is again standing on the porch looking into the living room.
exhibit 43,
This is on the porch looking through the living room into the kitchen and the back utility room.
okay, so that right there is the back wall of the house.
Yes, sir. Back right that little sliver right there.
Exhibit 43, exhibit 44,
And this again is looking into the living room, better exposure, there's the kitchen, and there again is the back wall of the house. And this is more or less walking into the living room, looking to the right, you see the stove again, and that is a doorway to the front bedroom.
now to your knowledge, at least, had any of these chairs been moved?
No, sir. Well,
Unless they had done it in the suite?
during the sweep of the house by the SOS team, I don't know what they might have moved. But that is the way the Chipman Street address was when I arrived.
46,
And this is just, there's your door again to the front bedroom and the Fireplace has been sealed in the TV in the entertainment center, and the TV is still on.
Exhibit 48.
And that is the table that's right beside the door to the front bedroom, and there's your fireplace.
49.
That's just standing at the side looking straight down at the table. There's a camera, a couple of Wendy's cups, a container of oil, and a can. This is looking back at the table again, the TV, DVD player, and the sealed up fireplace.
Exhibit 50. 51.
That is looking back at the front porch from about where we were there, and just showing that blanket that had been taken off the door.
Okay, there wasn't a door here when you...
No, sir, there was not.
Exhibit 52.
Those are the two pieces of cloth, the Mickey Mouse throw and a blanket that were under a window that was right on the left as you walk in the living room from the front porch.
Exhibit 54.
That's looking into the north bedroom. There's your fireplace again. I'm just looking straight into the north bedroom.
Now, was there a door here?
No, sir.
Exhibit 56.
That's on the side of the bed between the wall and the bed, and it's just a plastic container that had some items in it.
Okay, 57.
That's the iPod. It says Shannon Christian, love you, Mom and Dad. Investigator Flores found in that plastic container between the bed and the wall.
Back there in this...
Yes, sir. In that container's location that was found.
Exhibit 59.
That's standing in the bedroom looking back through the door to the living room, and there's a set of shelves right on your left as you're going out. There's a closet there.
Exhibit 53.
Looking at the top shelf of the closet, there's a magazine on the top shelf. That's on the shelves also. Those are patches used to clean the barrels of firearms, rifles or pistols.
Exhibit 63.
That's at the end of the shelves, there's digital scales there, and just different items on the shelf. And there's a close-up of the digital scales there.
Exhibit 65.
That's the other end of the shelf. There's a magazine again, a tortoise shell holder, silver tray that was used as an ashtray, an empty box that held 22 caliber rounds, and a cell phone battery. And there's the inside of the tortoise shell, and you got two 22 caliber cartridge cases there. Or 22 caliber rounds.
Those haven't been fired?
No, they have not. You can see
Sorry.
you can see how they haven't been fired. Round is complete.
68.
Those are two hats and some items behind the two hats that are on the shelves. And there's just a close-up Social Security card and the driver's license.
Exhibit 70.
And that's looking closer, and you can see the names on them now. The Marcus Davidson Social Security card, and it's Tennessee identification only.
71.
That shows where those items were: the two toboggans, the two IDs, the shoe boxes, and the pair of shoes, bottom shelf.
72.
That's looking into the two shoe boxes, the bottom shelf.
73.
That's just looking into the shoe boxes straight down. And that's in one of the shoe boxes, empty box, 22 caliber rounds.
75.
That's a gun case. Right there is the door going into the north bedroom, front bedroom. There's a gun case beside it and a vacuum cleaner, and that's one of my toolboxes.
76.
That's looking back in the closet. There's your shelves you saw a moment ago, and that's the closet right beside it.
So this is the closet to the north?
Yes, sir. It's north front bedroom. That's looking straight into the closet.
77, 78.
That's getting closer to the closet, looking to the right where a rifle is leaning against the wall.
So that was a carbine rifle there?
Yes, sir.
78, 79.
That's the floor of the closet, just the different items that were on the floor or on the tape duplicator that was on the floor and different items on top of it.
80.
It's just, there's the same thing, just the different items on the floor of the closet and the bedroom.
81.
Just looking closer at those items, plus there's a cell phone there.
82.
That's at the end of the bed in the front bedroom. You have two .22 caliber rounds there.
And those again,
They are not fired.
Not fired.
They are live rounds.
83.
This is standing in the front bedroom looking back through the bathroom. It has two accordion style doors on it, and that's the back bedroom or rear bedroom.
That's the only bathroom in the house.
Yes, sir.
And then you said these are kind of sliding accordion style doors?
Yes, sir.
And they're on either side of the bathroom?
Yes, sir.
84.
There's the door again, and this is a chair that was in the bathroom.
85.
That's the sink that's in the bathroom, the mirror, and a shelf at the end of the bathtub. And there's your door again and the back bedroom.
86.
There's a shelf where your shower is and a DVD and other items. That's the DVD that was laying on the shelf, The Manchurian Candidate.
That's 87.
Yes, sir.
88.
That's the label on the back of that DVD, The Manchurian Candidate, from Marion County Public Library, 201 East Main Street, Lebanon, Kentucky.
89.
There's your shower again, and there's the floor of the bathroom with its radio and CD player. It's
90.
just looking back at the toilet that was in there. That's the shelves right beside the shower in the bathroom.
93.
Those are the shelves being opened.
93.
Looking back into the rear south side bedroom from the bathroom. It's just moving more into the bedroom from the bathroom. And it's just the back wall of the house and the window that's covered with a trash bag and another piece of cloth.
95. 96.
Just the back wall of that bedroom with a photograph on the wall.
97.
And that's standing more or less where we just saw, looking into the closet, and that's going back into the kitchen.
98.
That's another look at the closet that we just saw the door open on.
99.
That's the floor of that closet, and the SOS team removed the panel going into the attic to search the attic to make sure nobody was up there. That's the panel that they removed.
Okay, so the attic access was from this closet?
Yes, sir.
And that's the panel that was left after they cleared the attic?
Yes, sir.
What about back up in here? What was up here?
Those are just shoes.
100?
There's a prescription bottle that was in the floor of that bedroom.
101?
Just a trash bag that was in the floor of the bedroom.
102?
There's an air mattress or inflatable mattress that had been folded over. It's in the bedroom, the rear bedroom.
109?
That's looking from the rear bedroom into the kitchen. There's a gas can there and a refrigerator.
111?
That's just looking down at the gas can that was beside the refrigerator in the kitchen.
112?
That's the top of the refrigerator with different various items on it.
113?
That's looking down at the items on the top of the refrigerator. There's a cell phone there and a .22 caliber cartridge case there. That's looking down. There's your cell phone again and your cartridge case there.
Now, you said about case. What are you talking about there?
Just, it has been fired. The powder and the projectile is not in it, so it has been fired.
115?
Just a different view of the top of the refrigerator. There's your cartridge case.
Oops, sorry.
There's your cartridge case and that cell phone again. And
117?
there's your refrigerator, and there's a table and a trash can and a trash bag right beside it. That's
118?
just looking at the shelving right close to the trash can. That's a yellow bag that was on top of the shelving. We took the yellow bag down, laid it on the table, and opened it up, and there's a gun cleaning kit in there.
That was in the kitchen.
Yes, sir.
121?
And on the kitchen table, the belt was there. Slim was the name on the belt buckle. At the bottom, one leg of her kitchen table is a burnt receipt. This is looking back at the kitchen. Your garbage can was over here. This is stove and washer, and there's your sink, and there's the back wall of the house again.
124?
This is looking at the sink, and there's some kind of sherbet can or container there, and a spray cleaning bottle that contained bleach there. That's looking into the sink closer, and there's your bottle there and your sherbet thing there. It's just looking closer down on what's in the sink.
127?
That's your spray bottle of cleaner. That's looking under the sink, and there's some glass cleaner there.
129?
That's one of the drawers in the sink, and there's another cell phone there. The back's taken off of it, and a can opener and different utensils.
103?
That's looking into the back room. There's your water heater, and it looks like a curtain there and some garbage bags.
104?
And that's the back door in the rear room of the house or utility room. And there are braces there that will hold a brace to keep from, and more or less to secure the door. And if you look closely, you can see where that's been indented, where the brace was there and somebody tried to open the door.
I'm sorry, we're going to say something else.
The hole right there, you can see the square form of it.
105?
And that's the rear garbage bag and another garbage bag, and that had mostly garbage in it, and that had a lot of clothing in it. That's a look at the top of that garbage bag.
106 is
And
107?
there's the bottom garbage bag, and you can see a pair of jeans there, and I think a microwave oven there.
108?
And that's looking at the clothes washer or washing machine with some kind of aluminum holder on it and a stakeout chain. That's looking back at the garbage bag and the garbage can. And we've moved.
Yeah, I'm not sure we talked about those yet. Those three garbage bags, there's one right there and then the two in the utility room. What did you do with those?
We started at the time we were there, we started going through that garbage bag. It was getting late. And so we packaged each garbage bag separately in large bags. We called for our paddy wagon. We put all those in the paddy wagon and then took it to the police department. And as I followed the paddy wagon in to secure evidence, we took it to the police department. We carried it up to the second floor and just secured those bags in there so we could go through them in a controlled environment when we weren't so tired. This was about 2 o'clock in the morning when we came back.
Hey, let me, where's the red light?